Hey folks, Alan Saunders live with Pittsburgh Postgame here on Pittsburgh Sports Live as the Pittsburgh Pirates swept. Yes, swept. The Pirates swept, won 3 games in a row against the Milwaukee Brewers here at PNC Park to improve to 7-17 on the 2020 season. About as improbable of a result for this weekend as one could have expected, as the Brewers came in just about 500. The Pirates came in with a winning percentage somewhere below 200, but come out with the sweep, their first of the season, their first series win of the season. I'm Alan Saunders, joined by Mike Waterloo, fantasy writer for The Athletic and former Pirates beat writer for Pittsburgh Sporting News here in the city. Mike, first of all, great to have you. Thanks for joining me. And a performance that, obviously the 3-game sweep, a big headline, but a pretty collective set of individual performances for some of these Pirates hitters that have really been struggling. We saw Gregory Polanco gets the go-ahead home run here today. Is that your big takeaway, besides obviously the victories, that this Pirates offense is maybe out of the doldrums?
Yeah, Alan, thanks for having me on. It's nice to kind of kick it with you old school a little bit, throwing it back to 2013, 2014. So appreciate you having me on. And yeah, we were kind of texting during the game, and I said, man, there are a lot of bettors and a lot of fantasy managers right now who are just up in arms at the Pirates sweeping the Brewers. I would love to see what those odds would have been Friday leading into the series to kind of predict that, even take 2 of 3. But yeah, I think that's really the big takeaway here is you're just seeing some of those Pirates bats come to life, especially Gregory Polanco. He just was on fire this weekend. I think he finished the weekend 4 for 9, couple homers, couple of steals, and you just see his WAR basically double or triple going from Friday to now. But yeah, seeing him come alive, seeing Bryan Reynolds show a little signs of life is definitely encouraging. Pirates suffered a couple of injuries today, definitely with Colin Moran, that scary incident at first base, and I believe it was Kevin Newman was the other injury that the Pirates had. But yeah, I mean, if you're a Pirates fan, you have to be very excited seeing them pull the sweep out in the 8th inning with that 2-run shot from Polanco. So definitely some signs of life from that offense.
Polanco entered the series with a weighted runs created plus of 7. If you're not familiar with that metric, 100 is average, 7 is about me. He left the series with a 75. I'm not sure outside of April I've ever seen that kind of swing. Obviously, he's a guy that's had some talent. When you look at players on this team, and we can talk about some of the Brewers as well, because I think some of them really fit into the same conversation. But is he the kind of guy that if you're a fantasy owner right now, is there some upside to him? I mean, obviously he's got talent, and he's had stretches throughout his career where he's been extremely productive. He's just yet to be able to put that together for any length of time.
Yeah, when I said doubled his WAR and tripled, what I meant was his WRC plus. So thank you for that little clarification. I think he went from 7 to like 43 yesterday. Now he's in the 70s, as you said. It's just crazy. But yeah, he's actually somebody you should be checking out, especially if you're in a deeper league. The one guy I kind of work closely with, Mike Kirkland, actually had a pretty good tweet yesterday that the top 5 in average exit velocity among qualified hitters: Miguel Sano, Fernando Tatis, Teoscar Hernandez, Juan Soto, and Gregory Polanco. And that was yesterday before his showing today. You can't really go off of exit velocity only, because with Polanco, he's swinging and missing out of the zone a lot, and it's basically all or nothing. But whenever he's hitting the ball, he's making contact. And like you said, he's somebody that Pirates fans and fantasy managers in general have been waiting for a while. So he's definitely somebody that you should take a flyer on, especially this is a 60-game season. Who knows what's going to happen day to day, and you kind of have to ride those waves. So it doesn't hurt picking up somebody with Polanco's pedigree and his potential and see if you can get him on a heater.
There's another couple of guys in this Pirates offense, really outside of Colin Moran and Eric Gonzalez, really the whole offense. Kevin Newman's been hitting okay, but really there hasn't been an outstanding performance on the offense much of the season. But there's been a few head scratchers too. Josh Bell, Bryan Reynolds, guys that have been productive players in the past. Adam Frazier hasn't been as reliable as he has been. Is there another kind of buy low opportunity that you see on this Pirates team, especially on the offense?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to go at Josh Bell. I'm notorious I don't really believe in Josh Bell. Have always called him James Loney Jr. Or Eric Hosmer. I felt like he could never find a ground ball he didn't like. And kind of seeing that ground ball rate spike back up to around 50% this year, I think it is a little concerning, but first base is so shallow. And we've seen what Josh Bell's been able to do. We saw that for the majority of last year, about 75% of the season, he was just a complete stud. So if you have a fantasy manager in your league who's getting a little concerned with Josh Bell, it's worth putting those feelers out on him. And you also mentioned Bryan Reynolds. It was kind of nice to see him come to life a little bit this weekend too, after his disappointing start to the season after his rookie performance put together last year. I'm not big on Kevin Newman, really. I believe that most of his, well, 25% of his production came from that series in Coors Field last year, where he hit 25% of his home runs in that series. So I'm not really big on him, especially being an older guy, already 26. I think I hate to say 26 being old, but that's what it is whenever you're a rookie coming in. But one guy I really want to try to get if I can is Brian Hayes. We know the Pirates haven't promoted him yet, but you've been seeing the wave of prospects being promoted every single week across the majors. And you have to think that Hayes is going to be close, whether they do it within the next week, whether they wait until after the August 31st trade deadline. You think he's going to be close. He's a very polarizing player in the fantasy community, mainly known for his defense, but there's some to like there with the bat and definitely some power for him to grow into. So those are a few guys I'm going after. Definitely Bell. He's going to cost the most for you to get, but definitely looking at Polanco where I can and Brian Hayes if I have the room.
And with a couple potential injuries on the left side of the Pirates infield, I think one of the things that's maybe kept Brian Hayes down there is that third base spot has been between Colin Moran and Eric Gonzalez. Maybe one of the few places the Pirates have felt good about what they've been putting on the field so far. Obviously, Gonzalez can play short too. You potentially lose Newman and Moran. Maybe there's a place for Brian Hayes to come up and play every day as opposed to being a part-time player. JT Brubaker gets the start, goes 4 innings, season high in pitches thrown. He's a guy that to me is very interesting in that he's really been to me one of the guys that's been hurt the most by the lack of a AAA season. He was a guy that really should have been the guy for the Pirates in Indianapolis, and then he ends up with this sort of working his way out of this short. He's been this 3-inning pitcher from a bullpen role. What do you make about his future as a prospect and his performance today?
I thought it was a really impressive showing today. I was surprised to see them let him pitch into the 4th inning. I wasn't really expecting that. I kind of ran into trouble a little bit late, but overall, like he looked really good first time through the lineup. If Derek Shelton's going to kind of adopt the opener approach, I think he's kind of somebody who's really, really made for that role, especially this year. As for his long-term outlook, I don't really think he's going to be a impact player. If we're talking fantasy, I think he's really a streamer at best, but you never know. You really need innings and you kind of need that production. I could see Brubaker maybe being an SP5, SP6 that you pick up for the right matchup. I don't think he has a super high floor, but I think he can be a guy who just kind of helps you and kind of can eat those innings for you if he can stay healthy going forward.
If you've got a question for me or for Mike or a comment or something you want to share, go ahead, leave it in the chat section there on YouTube, and we'll try to get to it in a minute. I want to ask you about the Brewers. I mean, this is a team that, is on the cusp of a playoff spot, was really pretty well connected with the Cubs for the division lead before they came to Pittsburgh. What's going on with Milwaukee?
Man, it's really, really hard to figure them out. They're always a matchup that you look at and you're like, man, this is going to be tough. They have Christian Yelich. He's one of the best players in baseball, hitting below the Mendoza line right now. So it's really, really just kind of tough to see what they're doing. And, they really go as far as their pitching will take them, which kind of has been the issue with Milwaukee for the longest time. They've struggled to find that really true ace on their staff. They have Brandon Woodruff, but after that, it's a lot of question marks. So it's really, really tough to figure out what's going on with them. There are a lot of pieces on that offense that I really, really like, and I would like to try to acquire them if people are down on them, especially getting swept by Pittsburgh. So, if you can try to go after, obviously, Christian Yelich, he was the number 1, 2, or 3 picks in fantasy drafts. So good luck prying him from the owner who kind of believes in the sunk cost fallacy where they invested in it. So it's hard for them to get rid of them, and a little endowment effect thought there. But if not, definitely Luis Urias is a guy I really like. He's missed most the beginning of the year as he had a late start for spring training, as it was known, with a broken hamate bone. But then he also had COVID, I do believe. So he's a guy that's, if you remember, they traded him, they got him this offseason in the Trent Grisham trade with San Diego. And while Fernando Tatis and Manny Machado and their young pitchers, Chris Paddock and Mackenzie Gore, get all the attention, Trent Grisham is blooming into not a fantasy star. He's blooming into a true star in baseball. And I think he had 3 homers last night. So there's a little pressure on Urias to perform for the Brewers. And you look at his OBP throughout the minors, it was 398, 398, 398. Last year, it was 321 with the Padres, and he's around 350 now, I believe, with the Brewers. So one of those things isn't like the other. So I still think there's a high ceiling for Urias, and I would love to see him back close to the top of the lineup. Keston Hiura, too, they mentioned on the broadcast today that I believe he has 8 home runs at PNC Park in his career and 12 in at home throughout his short career. So he just absolutely kills the Pirates. Billy Hamilton 2.0, I guess, but kind of a different kind of killing, if you will. But yeah, here is a guy that kind of has a lot of swing and miss to his profile too, but is just kind of a really, really advanced hitter, has nice power, a little bit of speed. A guy I'd try to look to acquire if I can. And Avi Garcia, he's a guy who, if you hear Matt Adams is from Slippery Rock, and enough times you'll hear Avi Garcia reminds everybody of Miguel Cabrera Jr. You hear every single broadcast. I heard it in the home and away today as well. So he's a guy who's just constantly underrated. He hits for power. He gets on base. His average is around like 240, 244 maybe. But he's a guy I'm trying to look to acquire too. He's just underrated every single year.
So as we sit here a week and a day before the MLB trade deadline, the Brewers, even though they get swept here in Pittsburgh, they fall to 11-15 and in a tie with Cincinnati for third place in the division. They're only still a couple games out of a wild card spot with the additional wild card teams added for this season. I think we can be pretty sure that the Pirates are sellers at the deadline. There aren't too many others. Are you expecting this to be a busy trade deadline, or are there just not enough teams that are out of it yet?
It's going to be so interesting because, like you said, with the additional wild card teams, and you have somebody who started very slow, like the Blue Jays, who have a playoff berth right now. You have the Angels who are just doing terrible, but still have those playoff aspirations, and they're not ready to call it quits. I think there are just too many teams involved right now that you're not really going to see a lot of movement. You're not going to see a lot of teams kind of selling pieces. You saw Brandon Workman get traded from the Red Sox to the Phillies the other day, and any other year, that wouldn't really be that big of a deal. Workman's a fine pitcher and all, but they got Nick Pivetta and some prospect who slipped my mind right now. But it was kind of like, hey, we have a trade to talk about. This is great, and I think you're going to see a lot of moves like that. You're going to see a lot of little pieces coming over, maybe bullpen pieces or some formerly, like I know Brock Holt was just DFA, but players like Brock Holt or Eric Sogard who can just kind of be those little fill-in pieces on the rosters that they're missing. But I don't think you're really going to see any of those big splash moves just because there's too many teams involved. No one's really ready to call it quits. This season's very weird as it is, and if it's a trend like the trade deadlines of the past, GMs are kind of shying away from giving up long-term assets for kind of short-term gains.
The Pirates sweep the Milwaukee Brewers with a 5-4 victory here at PNC Park. Gregory Polanco with the late 2-run home run to go ahead. JT Brubaker with a fine start. Richard Rodriguez nails down the save. Talking about the trade deadline with Michael Waterloo of the Athletic Fantasy. Is he a guy that's got some value? He's an interesting relief pitcher in that he had some great numbers a couple of years ago, not so great last year. And, I don't know what anybody's going to try to make of relief pitcher numbers and the kind of sample sizes that we're dealing with as we enter the trade deadline this season. But he gets the call with Keone Kela, Nick Birdie, and Kyle Crick all on the shelf for the Pirates.
Yeah, I mean, if the Pirates can keep coming together and winning some games, the Pirates don't really have any need for any relief pitchers as it is in their current state. So why not try to get something for him? Make this a little audition and showcase him a little bit and see. I don't think, and this sounds so weird to say because he's been so bad, I don't think you're going to get a Nick Pivetta return for him. But you may get a couple like low B tier level prospects, maybe a C level prospect. But at this point, for the Pirates, why not take it? So yeah, I think if they can audition him, yeah, he might get a little interest around the league because teams are always looking for bullpen help, and especially think with a shortened season, you're going to see more and more teams trying to. Well, you've seen it around the league with the off-season movements, teams just trying to load up their bullpen. So I think you're going to continue to see that trend. So yeah, I think he could be somebody that a team could use.
Pirates will now go to Chicago, where they've got 2 against the White Sox. Steven Brault will face Lucas Giolito tomorrow, and Trevor Williams draws the unenviable task of facing Dallas Keuchel on Wednesday. This 3-game winning streak here, obviously sort of uncharted territory for this Pirates team. They've not lost their grip on the bottom spot in the standings, but this sounds so bizarre, but is winning concerning? Should they be worried about? I mean, given who is there at the top of this coming draft, should finishing last be something they're worried about?
I mean, you'll never hear anybody in that front office or anybody ever say it, but I think we all know that the Pirates would prefer to get that number one pick, but you're never going to tell athletes not to compete. They're always going to compete and go to win. You hear coaches say that all the time. I still firmly believe the Pirates are the worst team in baseball. So if that makes Pirates fans happy, I guess, because they're able to kind of tank and hopefully get the first pick. But yeah, I mean, it's if you're a Pirates fan, you always want to see your team win at the end of the day, even if there's not a lot to play for. You just get sick of watching a team lose and lose and lose, especially with the history that the Pirates have with it. I personally would prefer them to kind of lose out the rest of the season, but you're not going to tell big leaguers to do that when you're trying to, especially whenever your position the Pirates are, where they're trying to evaluate talent, give their young guys some run. You want to give them a chance to play and develop. Going against the White Sox, that's going to be a tall task. That offense is just on fire right now, and they are just loaded. And then, yeah, they have a double header sandwich in there Thursday before facing the Brewers again. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Well, and the other thing is, the way it works. So as of right now, the next worst team in baseball is the Boston Red Sox of all teams. I mean, could you imagine if the Pirates win a couple games down the stretch here, and as a result, they don't get the number one pick, and it goes to the Red Sox instead? I mean, that is just among the most bizarre circumstances I could possibly think of happening. And as it stands right now, it seems at least reasonable.
Yeah, I know talking anything NBA in Pittsburgh is kind of like taboo, so apologize. But you saw the NBA lottery the other night on Thursday, where it came down to the Minnesota Timberwolves, who we can equate to the Pittsburgh Pirates here, and then the Golden State Warriors, who we can equate to the Red Sox with their past history. So luckily, the T-Wolves were able to get the number one pick. Can you imagine the Warriors if they did? So that's kind of how I feel with the Red Sox, even though Dombrowski just kind of gutted that entire system. They have some pieces there, but yeah, the Red Sox are pretty bad too. That rotation is bad. I was talking to my friend who he lives up there. He up in Boston, lifetime Red Sox fan. He's like, "Have you ever seen a rotation this bad?" I said, "Maybe the past few years with the Orioles, but outside of that, no." Like they at least had John Means. Whenever you're saying John Means is better, like that's the state of the Red Sox right now. So it's realistic that they could kind of be head to head there, just given that. But the Red Sox do have a pretty good offense. So hopefully it doesn't come down to that. And then you look back at the 3-game sweep that the Pirates had in late August and say, man, was it really worth it with that Gregory Polanco homer in the 8th inning? So we'll see. It'll be interesting to follow for sure.
Michael Waterloo of The Athletic, my guest. Thank you for joining me. Anything you got to plug, you want to pimp, anything like that?
No, not really. Just kind of check us out at theathletic.com. We always are running really, really good deals just to kind of check us out. Support good content, support everybody creating content right now. We need it, especially with this interesting year. So yeah, just check us out and continue doing great work, Alan. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. And Pittsburgh Postgame will have tomorrow night off along with the Pirates, and then be back in action Tuesday night after the Bucks and the White Sox. Thank you, Michael Waterloo, for joining us. Great friend of mine and a man that's meant a lot to my career along the way, and I really appreciate everything. and it's fun to have you on and talk some baseball. So that was great. Let's do it again sometime. For Michael Waterloo, for everyone at Pittsburgh Sports Live, I'm Alan Saunders. Pirates sweep the Brewers. Unspeakable things happening here at PNC Park. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.
See you guys.